know what good booking is. I certainly don't, but I think that AEW may just stumbled across it in the wrestling sense, though stumbled across it sounds a little bit mean. But we had an episode of Dynamite last week, and man, I've been watching wrestling a long time, right? I've been doing content creation here on YouTube for 10 years. What an absolute loser I am. And you like to think that you've seen so much that you're able to sort of at least get a good bearing, a good understanding of what direction that we are heading in. Actually, WWE has done it with me with WrestleMania 2, but that's because I think they keep changing their mind. Whereas now we have Revolution on the horizon, and I have no idea what's going to happen. If I had to predict it right now, I'd make an absolute fool of myself, but that's okay, because I am a fool, and if you are here, hello, my name is Simon Miller. Thank you for joining me. Please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. We're about to talk about MJF versus Hangman. Because numerous things happened on last night's episode of Dynamite. One, MJF beat Kevin Knight, which is essentially done to set up a trios title match, which was going to main event the show. Kevin Knight one day is going to be in the main event scene. This is very similar to what we did with Carl Fletcher a couple of years ago. And I know that Carl Fletcher has kind of gone off on his own direction at the moment, but in 2028, as a random year, you're going to get Kevin Knight, you're going to get Carl Fletcher, a bunch of other people competing for world championships, and it's going to feel pretty cool, and it's going to feel unique, which I think is massively important for AEW. Anyway, MJF does that. He technically lost, but he kicked the referee into the ropes because he's an absolute numbnut. When MJF is then going to punch Kevin Knight with a diamond ring, so out come Hangman Adam Page, and out come Mike Bailey. When then later on, Hangman Adam Page has a random squash match, which I actually didn't think that we needed, because we had the squash match in the women's tag before all this, that I'll talk about a bit later. I don't think you should do back-to-back squashes. That's just a personal preference to me. Anyway, Hangman does that. He calls out MJF. MJF does come out. When Okada, who the hell was it? It was Okada, Carl Fletcher, and Mark Davis, so Aussie Open and Okada essentially, attack Hangman Adam Page. Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight come out to make the save. At some point in the evening or over the weekend, wherever the flub it was, Jet Speed had said, man, we will defend these belts or we will fight anytime, anywhere. When all of a sudden it turns out that Tony Khan has booked that trios match for the end of the night, which is totally crazy. Now listen, in terms of an impromptu match on an AEW show, they don't often do that, so it kind of felt kind of fun to bring in that wrestling trope. I'll never be able to get my head around why Tony Khan signed off on this, because Hangman technically had a match, even if it was a squash, and Kevin Knight had been in a barn burner to open the thing. That was a little bit weird. I kind of felt like that was an odd way to justify getting it in the main event. I think we probably could have come up with something different. But anyway, we get to that main event, and that's right. Jet Speed and Hangman lose their titles, because what does MJF do? He pulls Hangman off the apron when he's about to hit the buckshot. He punches him with that diamond ring, which they had talked about all evening long. And now the Don Callis family are in possession of the trios titles. And I also think at Revolution, then there's another trios match when Jet Speed get their rematch, as I keep saying the word match over and over again. But for some reason, it's Mystico that is going to tag in for Hangman, because of course he has his match with MJF. Now that is a little bit weird, but it does tie into what I think is the most important thing, given the World Championship match should always be right up there. Now I convince myself that MJF is going to lose. And that is even though my brain is telling me that's a dumb thing to say out loud, because MJF really has only just won that championship, and it's too soon. Now, as I've talked about time and time again, another reason why I enjoyed the fact we changed the trios titles, belts should always be able to change hands as long as it makes sense to the story. Sometimes with a lower belt, do I think you can just do it on a whim to see if it sparks some interest? Absolutely, I think that's cool, especially because all the promotions in 2026 have 42,922 titles. So it's good that we changed the trios ones, but AEW usually when it comes to their world titles, I mean, when Hangman lost it to Samoa Joe, everybody was completely shocked. We couldn't believe it. To then back-to-back that with another one, I think would be incredibly daring. But it all comes down to the stipulation, which of course now is intact. It's going to be Texas Death. But also, if Hangman Adam Page isn't able to win, he has to pull a Cody Rhodes and never challenge for that World Championship again. Now, of course, you can easily come up with the argument that if Hangman wants to go heel at some point, he can renege on that stipulation. AEW is 7 years in. We understand how they are going to approach stipulations. I think one of the reasons we did it with AEW back in the day with Cody Rhodes is to tell people who had sort of grown up on WWE. And it's true. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There'll be pros and cons depending on how you look at it. But they often would have stipulations that had some real consequences to them. Then a couple of years would go by and they would just forget that it happened and we would go back to it. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn would be one that I threw out there. AEW wanted to prove that they were going to be an alternative. So they were going to take one of their biggest stars and ban him from ever going after the world title. I remember at the time, people just thought he was going to beat Chris Jericho and he didn't. Why? Slap your head. Because of MJF, which is very interesting. Now, whether we should have done that that, we shouldn't have done that with Cody. We did. It's so far in the past now, I don't think we have to worry about it. But I think that AEW these days, in the modern day, could absolutely get away with Hangman losing and then he still becomes the world champion again. And we all go, boo, boo, Hangman, how dare you do it to us? But now I've kind of convinced myself, especially because it is Texas Death as well, which is the Hangman Adam Page specialty, and because I cannot see a time in the immediate future, at least, why you would turn Hangman heel, unless it's to do with the fact that he isn't able to win here, and he goes totally crazy. Swerve Strickland, who's now a heel, probably go poke the bear because he loves doing that as well. But it just happened during this. Whatever they did on this show, it took me to this place where before I was so convinced that MJF was going to win, and all the other stuff I've just talked about, maybe the direction we do go in. Now I think MJF is losing, and I think Tony Khan must have some crazy plan heading into All In, I would guess, at Wembley this year, that requires something to do with this, although I do not know what it is. If Hangman Adam Page loses his trio titles because MJF screwed him over, and he's essentially putting his career on the line in many ways, I mean, he's a world championship fighter, and then he loses at Revolution, that's a very interesting place to take someone that is arguably your top babyface. Now listen, MJF is also your top heel, and one of the biggest stars in the company, so you have to depend on what we are going to be doing 6 months down the line, and where we need these people to be. But what a wonderful conversation to be able to have in terms of what we did on one show, because obviously I was away last week, but I still watched it. Even then I was like, okay, well maybe I'm leaning towards Hangman a little bit more, but I'm way more on the side of MJF getting the victory. And then within 2.5 hours, too long this episode of Dynamite, we do not need a 25-minute overrun, whatever the flub it was. But I really, really have now. I think that MJF is going to lose. And I saw somebody speculate on the internet, maybe he's got another film role, so we're just changing things here, which is totally fine. And I actually think adding in the stipulation of I'm never going to challenge for the title again has helped here because of what we did with Cody. So if Hangman just goes and win, we can probably never do it again. We've sort of used up any energy we had left from that. But it is very, very well done. And seeing MJF in Texas Death is almost interesting because, of course, as Hangman said on this show, he goes totally insane in those matches and he has no conscience. He just goes, oh, I'm going to try and hang you because why wouldn't I do that? My name is the Hangman. But that is great for the world title match. How many times have I talked about Jeopardy and needing that seed of doubt in your tum-tum where when you sit down, the bell goes ding, 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 because there's something wrong with the bell in my wrestling promotion. You're completely dumbfounded about what the end result is going to be. It allows you to buy in more. It allows wrestling to feel real, or more real, I should say, which is a silly term anyway. So AEW does deserve a pat on the back with that because I could not call it right now. And of course, we will do the predictions next week, I believe, if I've got my timeline right. And that may even be before the next episode of Dynamite, depending on what happens on Collision. So I'm going to be dumbfounded, but that is awesome. And listen, of course, it would suck if MJF had to go away again. But if he is getting movie roles, I totally understand it. He's a 30-year-old man. He wants to take advantage of all these opportunities. And I do believe he's one of the best to do it right now. Like the match with Kevin Knight was super duper fun. And he still made sure that there was a moment in the match when Kevin Knight hit that UFO splash. He could have got like a 3 count, but MJF had booted the referee as well. So don't come into my house and tell me he doesn't understand how to be a heel. Although Kevin Knight was getting some boos here because people liked MJF so much. That's just the fun of pro wrestling. I'm never going to get mad about that. In some days, people shout out, oh, we have to turn that person bad guy now. No, we don't. We can have a smattering of negative reactions and it's totally cool. But yes, all of this was very, very well done. And I think the change of the trios titles was smart as well. Which just goes back to what I talked about, right? Sometimes the trios championships aren't even talked about on TV. I'm worried they've fallen into the Phantom Zone or something, or they should be on the side of a milk carton. These can be changed all the time. Of course, the Ops didn't have them all that long ago. And I actually think them being on the Don Callis family, given they have 9,000 members, they probably do need a bunch of titles because then one by one they can lose them. And that's when the family should disintegrate. So finally they can have a normal family dinner. But it was a super fun match as well. Like, it was really, really enjoyable. And I presume that MJF was going to get involved, but I was still umming and ahhing because, again, a title change is a big thing to do, especially in an impromptu match. I could be wrong here, didn't do any research, I try not to do that, but I don't think AEW has ever done, they rarely do the impromptu match thing, which is what made it more entertaining, but I don't think they've ever done it when they have an impromptu match and there's a title change, so I think that's quite a big deal. It's quite a big thing to throw out there, and why Mystico is sneaking in for Hangman, I do not know, but it probably just means that the Don Callis family can hang on to them, which they probably should do, but again, if you want to hot potato them around, it's just bizarre to me that we can freebird it, but it's not even freebirding it. I don't even think that Mr. Co was in this group, but there he is. So my only caveat with all of it, and listen, I may have missed something, I'm always happy to be educated, I think it's super important to keep your brain open to such things, is why Tony Khan would take Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey at their word. Like, I understand they said, man, we'll fight anytime, anywhere, we don't care, but that doesn't mean you then acquiesce to the bad guy Don Callis, who apparently went into Tony Khan's office and said, well, I think we should do this match right now. And Tony Khan was like, yes, unless, of course, Tony Khan just wants good TV ratings, and he thought that may get some word of mouth and people would tune in. Maybe he would do that. So maybe he sort of values that over the status of Kevin Knight. Of course, I am exaggerating here. It did mean that when because Kevin Knight got hit with the Rainmaker and the Mark Davis pile driver, a couple of things actually. One, totally protected, gets hit with two finishes, one of which is the finish, right? That and the One-Winged Angel, I think, are probably more protected than most things in the wrestling world these days. He's also already been in 2 matches, so of course his HP is going to be super low. Wrestling is just video games, but I also like the fact that Mark Davis hit the pile driver and got the 3, because that dude has been through the ringer. Sort of he gets put with a brand new partner, that person gets injured. So the fact that he's been having some damn good performances recently. So the fact that he's still alive in terms of the talent pool and just got a win for the Don Callis family to get them some belts, I think is super smart. I think it's really, really intelligent, and there's loads we can do with this. And I would imagine around about All In, the Don Callis family probably should be falling by the wayside. So we're at Empire Strikes Back now. The next movie is just around the corner. I suppose the other big talking point is the Inspiration versus the Brawling Birds. I have seen some very interesting accounts. I should name names, but I'm not going to do it. Because the same people that were like, I can't believe AEW signed the Inspiration. That's not the right talent for the product. Also said, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Well, that's them done. They're buried forever. Do you not know these two, Cassie and Jesse? They're so good at losing, right? Which is a silly thing to say. But when they used to lose in WWE, I didn't see much of their TNA stuff, so that's on me. But when they used to lose in WWE, their meltdowns and some of the backstage interviews they did was so damn entertaining. This ties into Danhausen stuff. Wrestling isn't always about wrestling. And here actually what we did is open up the door for them to be those crazy people. And I'm desperate to see that again. Because I used to love the Iconics back in WWE, but you also took the Brawling Birds, who are a brand new tag team and probably are going to be the tag team champions down the line, and made them monsters. Like every single match they've won so far has been in squashes, but never against a team that, 1, essentially is just debuted, and 2, has a serious name to them. Like the Iconics as a brand has been around for 10 years? Am I exaggerating? I don't think so. But they also were knockout tag team champions in TNA, so that counts for something as well. So I just thought this was great. I don't think wrestling does this kind of stuff enough. A lot of it comes down to ego, and a lot of it comes down to, well, I can't possibly lose like that. Them having a competitive match does not open the door for as many potential opportunities as this did, right? Jamie Hayter and, I can't remember her name, Alex Windsor, excuse me, now can be absolute beasts, and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't want to face those guys. Whereas the Inspiration, like I say, the promo should be out already. It's a terrible mistake that it's not. But somebody better put a camera in their face, and like I say, they better have gone absolutely crazy and come up with some ridiculous excuses why they weren't able to win. I'm not saying they have to be comic relief. I think that word gets thrown around way too much in professional wrestling, but they can just be too entertaining. Don't always have to be losers, but literally they can be two entertaining losers. Be like, right, we're going to get them this time, and then they fall again. They're Scrappy-Doo in many ways. So this got me super pumped, and I think it's the same with Danhausen on WWE. I think he's going to bring a flavour to the show, be it Raw or SmackDown, that you need, because there is so much damn television on the television every single week. What the stupidest sentence I've ever said. I've got to stop this ranting and raving. But the Inspiration could absolutely fill that role as well in AEW. So I do not understand what the confusion is here. Like, not every single person has to go in there and have super duper whooper 5-star matches. I understand that's AEW's style in many ways, but there has to be these little boxes that we can fit people into. Now, arguably, we tried to do that with Danhausen. Whatever happened. I do not know. I don't like speculating because it's all rumor and innuendo. I just want everybody to be happy. But given that we are trying to build a women's tag team division here, I think they will fit in wonderfully. And I really enjoyed this. It's just a shame that we didn't cut to them at one point and do the promo on Dynamite, but it's early days. I really hope we get there, because once again, I think we'll have a similar thing to what we had from Saturday and then Monday. Everybody will laugh. Everybody understand they do know what they're doing, and then you can just have a laugh for however long you flipping want to. Otherwise, yes, David Finlay debuted in AEW. This back and forth killed me. People being like, well, apparently he was only offered NXT money to go to WWE, which we do not know. I'm going to wait till it gets clarified by a proper source. But let's take it as read, and let's say that AEW offered him more money than WWE. Are you telling me it's a huge shock and we should have a big fight on the internet about the fact a man was a free agent, went to do some job interviews, and took the job that was paying him more money? I mean, I can't believe it. I can't believe that somebody would do that. Now, listen, there's many reasons to take a job. There was a rumor that Blake Monroe, the former Mariah May, actually got offered more to stay in AEW, but she wanted to go to WWE. Also understandable. If that's your dream and you want to tick that box, more power to you, and I respect it. But if we are talking about stereotypes, human being picks job that offers them more money, could be the number one repeated story every single day in this life. I don't care where David Finlay goes. If he'd been at NXT, it would have been good. And here it probably made more sense because we also learned that Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors had signed. And we had the Darby Allin Orange Cassidy match. And Darby Allin Orange Cassidy won. Now, this was, I thought, very, very smart because obviously Tony Khan knew that David Finlay was going to be able to debut. That, of course, carries some headline worthiness to it. So it means the bad guys can be standing tall at the end. But for the heroes, the good guys, the baby faces, to get a victory on essentially a random episode of Dynamite, I know we're going to do the rematch at the pay-per-view. I just thought it was nice. And sometimes I want the good guys to win, like when you're just reading a random comic that comes out in a week and you get to the end of it, you're like, oh, brilliant, the superheroes won. I don't have to be a sad panda today. So, good debut for David Finlay. Obviously smacked everyone with a shillelagh, and they're called the Dogs, which is a terrible name, but we've always had terrible names in wrestling. I'll be over it in 2 weeks, so I'm not going to sit here and moan about it now. But I think he probably fits better into AEW anyway and what they're trying to do right now, which again is leaning this super, I suppose, New Japan 2016 direction, which is a terrible comparison. But you know what I'm talking about. But if he had been in NXT, I'm sure he would have done there well, and I'm sure eventually he'll probably have a run there too. So we're kind of going back to that old way now anyway, where wrestlers should be able to jump ship all the time, and it's fantastic. The only issue right now, or the shame I suppose, is that Royce Keys, the former powerhouse Hobbs, hasn't turned up on television, but he will eventually. Don't get me wrong, I think it's ridiculous not to jump. I think you should always jump when the iron is hot, or strike when the iron is hot, and he should have been on a Raw or SmackDown after the Raw Rumble and just killed the dude, right? You should have done a squash match there. Not everything has to be this grandiose story, but he's going to be there eventually, and I think he's going to be totally fine. But David Finlay makes sense. We now essentially have that New Japan group in AEW. It's good for the trios titles because that's three guys together again. But I actually think my happiest takeaway was Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin winning, because once again, sometimes it's just nice to have the good guys win. Also got into it hardcore with FTR and the Young Bucks. Essentially, FTR tried to murder their family last week, and the match is going to be in front of their friends and family because we are in California. I think the Young Bucks are probably going to win. I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is because we likely don't have many of these matches left because AEW, probably rightfully so, has such big gaps between them. I mean, you could surprise everybody. I mean, they also had the interaction with Tommaso Ciampa and FTR being like, you want to be a tough guy? Come join the top guy crew. Could go one of two ways, although Tommaso Ciampa did punch them in the face. They could do something on Collision. It could be some crazy ruse that he does join FTR, which would be ridiculous to be honest, and that's how the FTR return the titles. Or maybe Johnny Gargano is going there. Now, I don't know this, but from what I've read and when little tidbits come up on the internet, I think Johnny Gargano is under contract in AEW for a long-ass time. WWE, sorry, for a long-ass time. But I do not know. I mean, his gimmick right now is lying down. I'm not sure how much upside that does have. But of course, DIY being in AEW would be awesome. Tommaso Ciampa has been awesome. But I'm very, very excited about the Young Bucks taking on FTR because they never had a bad match. They always come up with a really cool finish. So I think that will be good. Otherwise, I guess we just have to talk about the women's title. Now, it is a shame this wasn't the main event because, of course, at the time of the show starting, I thought it would be the main event. We have a women's championship match. I understand why we didn't flip them around because they wanted that big ending with the title change itself, but yeah, at the same time, it would have been cool. But I just thought Thunder Rosa coming back after that injury looked really, really good. Tekla, I think, really, really has stepped into her own shoes at the moment. I remember when she debuted, I was like, I'm not sure we can take anything from her beating up Jamie Hayter, and I was the first one to hold my hands up and say, I don't really know a lot of her work from Japan, so I need to give her a few weeks or a few months. And now everybody loves her, right? So she's absolutely smashed a home run. They also smashed each other right in the face. This was so hard hitting. More power to them as well because I did not believe we were going to get a title change. And when Thunder hit that Fire Thunder driver for the 1-2, I was like, oh my gosh, it was a tighter sort of tease than I thought it was going to be. Tekla eventually essentially hit with 3 finishes, so that was nice because you kind of protect Thunder Rosa. Out comes a triangle of madness. The useless wrestling security guards stop Chris Statlander, who tries to come out there, I guess, to try and help, which is a terrible idea because Tekla's like, all right, I'm going to curb stomp her again. Now we're doing Chris Statlander versus Tekla round 2 or 3. I think it's round 2. I may be confused there. At the pay-per-view, we have got to let these guys promo, right? It was a big conversation about Chris Statlander recently. You got to give her a microphone and she has to sell this with her words because I think given that she lost and now we're trying to get back into it for a round 2 or round 3, whatever it is, I think there has to be the blow-off in one sense or another. To get people to buy in with their tum-tums, it needs to be more than pull-aparts or brawls or sort of tropes that we have fallen into in the past. We need to get that promo. You're like, oh my gosh, Chris Statlander, I am behind you, right? I will help you run through walls. And Tekla actually has been doing a bunch of these backstage video ones, and I think she has found her momentum with it. So now we need the other side as well. I think Chris Statlander is perfectly capable of this. I just think you need to give her the opportunity. But good Good stuff. I enjoyed it a lot. And it's just nice to have Thunder Rosa back amongst this too, although I don't know what she does now. So I hope we do have a story for her in place. But it was a really, really solid match. And ultimately, Tekla is in a great place right now. Her ceiling just continues to grow. And if we can maybe surprise us all and have this elongated title run, maybe she does get to a completely different level that wasn't on our radar. Don't know what's going on with Toni Storm right now. Obviously, she's feuding with Marina Shafir, but here, sort of Marina Shafir said, Tony, you better be ready for me. And then Toni Storm was telling on Orange Cassidy and said, man, I'll rip your ears off. Whatever she said. Maybe we can do more with that as well, especially if a Dynamite is going to go 2 hours, 25 minutes. But overall, I actually thought it was a very good show. You can tell the revolution is in the horizon. Because when AEW locks onto a date, I actually think all their stories get pretty good. So yes, let me know what you thought about all of this in the comments below. Like I say, the best thing about it was the MJF Hangman stuff, because now you've really got me intrigued about the pay-per-view. And if I didn't do this job, I'd probably be like, fine, I'll drop $50. I need to see what's going to happen here. And that's all wrestling needs to be. It's a television show. It needs to get your intrigue. And they've done a good job. But drop me a comment below and let me know what you think. Otherwise, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is me talking about Danhausen mostly from Monday Night Raw, which is my favorite thing of the year. I've decided. I've probably forgotten something, but I've said it now. Otherwise, there's a bunch of stuff in the description down there, which I'd appreciate you clicking, such as grillandmind.com/Simon and patreon.com/Simon316. Simon316 on social media, and then it is Cameo, it's TikTok, and it's Pro Wrestling Tees. If you'd like to support me there as well, check out my new YouTube channel, Under the Mat, which is a Between Two Ferns type interview show, which people are telling me they're enjoying. And I always get worried about saying that because I'm just that kind of a guy, but you should check it out and decide for yourself. I will see you soon.